Hello everyone. Today in this video we are going to learn about important tips how we have to write our resume and how we have to submit our resume to the interviewer to get an interview every time when we submit an resume for an SAP role. So we will see the magic of resume writing in this video. So first of all we'll start with a quote which is written by Johnson Rambler, and this quote actually explains the meaning of first impression is the best impression. If we read this quote, few have strength of reason to overrule the perceptions of sense, and yet fewer have curiosity or benevolence to struggle long against the first impression. So this means like, so only few people will have, so for every person will have some perceptions against the other person. So this means like, this is the first, whenever we see the person at the first time, eh, we will get one kind of impression on him. So that if it is a good impression, that is good enough, or otherwise if at the first impression a person gets in bad or not a very good impression, then he has to struggle to gain that good impression from others. So the same thing it is explaining here, like he who therefore fails to please in his salutation, means like first we will address, and address is at once rejected and never obtains an opportunity of showing his latest excellences or essential qualities. So here it says, whenever we meet the person for the first time, we should, at 99% of the time we should try to get the first impression. Otherwise it will be very difficult to convince that person in the later stages. So in the same way, this even applies for this technological age. Our resume, whenever we submit our resume to the employer, so our resume itself should give the best impression about us, the technology or the knowledge which we gain in our throughout our SAP career, whatever we gain through our SAP career, our resume should reflect that. So our resume should be the first and foremost thing to show off our skills. So how does it relate to resume building, you would ask. So whatever I said now, the same first impression is the best impression thing is related even to resume building. So resume building is your first impression, and contrary to what you think, clients and consultants spend only 3 to 4 minutes or sometimes only 1 minute on every CV before they shortlist you for an interview. So if we understand that, no one will read our resumes line by line. They will just have a glance, and they have, they know whatever they need beforehand when they have our resume in their hands. So they will actually glance through those important points, what actually they are expecting from an interview, from a candidate, and if those kind of points if they find in that resume, then they try to shortlist it, otherwise they will reject that resume. So we will now understand what kind of tips we need to follow. We need to follow to have our resume picked by the employer. Okay, one glance and an experienced recruiter or client knows whether you fit in for an interview. So what are those critical elements which a client or a recruiter glances through in a CV? So we should first of all know what actually are those kind of points. Now moving on to the other slide. But first, certain baby's concepts. Before before learning what are all the critical elements we need to submit in our resume to the client or to the recruiter, before that we need to understand few basic concepts. Basic objective of resume. What is the basic objective of resume? Is to get interview calls. So by hearing that, everyone will say, yeah, I know all this. But I will show you that more than 90% of the consultants might be aware of this objective, but they don't really work on their CVs to ensure that they achieve this goal. So Jim Rohn, the noted philosopher, says, we major in minor things, and this is true of resume building too. Normally, we work most of the minor things majorly, but we'll leave the things which are very important, but that might be very minor. We will see all those things in our upcoming slides. We waste lot of time and energy in unnecessary details while making our CV and overlook the critical elements. Okay, while every area in a resume needs to be addressed with care, there are certain key areas which can work magic on our resume and help us get a 100% success rate in interview calls. So now we will see what are those things. So we have to remember the first step is to get an interview call and second is to clear that interview. So in this video we will cover all the steps how to get an interview call. So there are two simple yet critical parts to achieving the 100% success ratio of getting interview calls. What are those? So we have to follow the do's and don'ts in our CV. So what are the do's? So first, tailor make your, okay, in this we have actually discussed there are two parts. So one is we have to follow the do's and don'ts, and second is we have to tailor make our CV to fit into clients' requirements perfectly each and every time you send it to them. So very few consultants follow this, very few. Your success percentage would increase tremendously if you were able to follow this golden rule. I will show you how to do this in a moment. So we discussed like there are two critical parts in to achieve in getting the 100% success ratio of getting interview calls. So the first thing is the do's and don'ts, and the second thing is always whenever we send the resume to the recruiter or the client, we need to tailor make your resume. That means we will discuss what actually we need to, what changes actually we need to make to that resume. Now first, do's and don'ts. In that again, do's. On the first page of your resume, what we have to do? Here is the list of certain definite things which every client looks for in the first two lines of your resume. So what actually he checks? What is your core module and how many years of experience you have? If they want to contact you, what is the contact number and the email ID? And also if you are certified, yes or no, means like if you are certified, just mention you are certified, and in which latest version you have worked, and what is the kind of industry experience we have. This information should be in the first two lines of our resume, and make sure these are highlighted in bold. These 7 things should be reflected in bold with large fonts in the first two lines of our resume. There are many people who mention their SAP certification and version somewhere inside their resume where clients find it difficult to locate. Mention all those right at the top. The client should be able to locate all the important information about you very easily without making any efforts. These are simple things, but if done properly, they increase your success ratio. Remember, as I said, our objective is to get interview calls, nothing else. So here are few hot tips. If the client is looking for asset management or product costing, mention that right at the top with your core module. The client loves that. Also in the summary below, if any education or training which you had undertaken earlier and are related to the role you are applying for, mention that liberally. So what are all things we have to do? In our first page, we have to update the 7 points. It's a core module and our experience, contact number, email ID, whether we are certified, and the version we worked recently, and our industry experience. We have to mention this in the bold letters, and also in this, and also if the client is looking for specific modules, definitely we have to highlight that, and also we have to include our education or training in the summary for that particular role. And the next important thing is the body of the first page. The first paragraph provide a summary about your SAP experience, paying particular attention to the number of full implementations, rollouts, upgrades, etc. You can mention here any specific skills and interfaces like Vertex, Sin, etc. you have worked in. And also special non-SAP qualifications like CPA, CIMA, ICWA, CA, MBA, which will highlight your professional experience. Specific industry experience if the client is relating to that industry. So our first paragraph should be a summary. And in the second paragraph, mention all your core skill sets in brief. That means highlight those which the client is looking for, like say asset accounting, tax, depreciation, product costing, make to cost, costing based profitability analysis. So if we see the client requirements, we can find these few of the lines are the requirement details from the client. We are actually trying to find this type of candidate for our job. So you select few points from the requirement details of the client and try to make up your experience related to those points. So we have to mention all our core skill sets. So in the second page of our resume, we should highlight the snapshot of all our implementations in a table form. This is liked by all the clients and is a virtual winner. So whatever the experience which we have till now, we have to break down those experience into these columns and to form a table. The table should carry the following details. So consulting employer and name of the client, your role in the project, version you worked on, modules you implemented, date of go live, what is the nature of implementation. So these things we need to show it in a table format. I have attached a snapshot of how the table could look like in the next page. You can of course make it look better. So like this. So this table is a bird's eye view of various implementations you have done and will help a client get all information at one glance. If you follow the guidelines mentioned in the first 2 pages, your success ratio will increase significantly. Okay, and there are few hot tips for this page. In the last column where you mention your role, be creative. Mention roles like integration, coordinator, and any new terms which will make your resume stand out. If you have worked only on one rollout project so far, say 3 years or so, then do the following. You have to break that up into 5 parts stating Japan rollout, Europe rollout, etc. Or you could say first phase, second phase. So you need to think creatively how you can put at least 4 entries in the table below, even if you are new and have only one project. Be creative when you are short of experience. People need quality and quantity, both number. You will notice that this table basically covers your entire experience in one snapshot. It is loved by employers, so don't forget to do that. So first thing is summary, second thing is this table, and the third thing is project details. Next comes the project details, and as mentioned in the table, each project individually should contain the following. Again, now you have to explain each project. The modules you implemented, the version, the go live date, your major contributions. This is significant for it highlights your role in the project. This piece should be tailor made to fit into project you want to get into. So if this major contribution, these points, it should not be same that we are sending to each and every recruiter or the client. It should change the major contributions part, like the sentences which we write. We have handled this many this kind of critical item incidents. We have covered this many kind of this type of service requests. So we need to understand the requirement of the client and our major contributions we need to write based on the client requirements. Even our resume needs to be updated for each and every recruiter, or it should be different for each and every client. That depends on the client requirements. Our resume should match the client requirements. So here the hot tips are: mention and highlight the submodules which the employer is looking for. by stating at least 4 to 5 points in that submodule. This would sure shot give you an interview call. There are basic do's. These are the basic do's, and if you get this right, your conversion rates of getting interviews would increase substantially. Now, let us quickly cover the don'ts before we zero in on how to tailor make your resume to fit the project. There are various don'ts while making your resume, but the most ones are listed down below. Never mention the following in your CV unless it is really needed: your date of birth, your correspondence home address, especially for consultants from Asian regions, your nationality more. So in case of from Asian, your passport details, your educational clarification, which are non-professional. So these are all the things which are not required. So these are various other don'ts, but the important factor you should keep in mind is you should never hurt the ego of the employer or client, and should do everything to present your case in a humble and pleasing manner. Should do everything to present you in a humble and pleasing manner. How to tailor make your CV to fit it into the client's requirements perfectly so that you get an interview call every time you send your resume. So those are the points. First, the summary and first paragraph. In the first paragraph, the summary, and in the second paragraph, the core skills, and in the second page we are going to have that table, and after the table, and we are going to explain each and every project experience which we have, and this is like project details. And the things which we don't want to add in the resume is our date of birth, our correspondence address, our nationality, our passport details, and our irrelevant educational qualifications. So after that, and also always remember, don't hurt the ego of the employer or client. So how to tailor make your CV to fit into the client requirements perfectly? So we have prepared our resume. Now our resume is ready, but whenever we are trying to send it to the employers or the client, first we need to understand the requirements of the clients, why they are actually interviewing. So every client would have different requirements. So how do we ensure that we send the perfect resume which fits into client needs? Very simple. This is what I was taught 15 years ago, and I am going to reveal this simple yet overlooked aspect. I still use it, and so do many consultants, and it works big time. After you have finished making an attractive resume using the steps outlined above, here is what you need to do. Let us say you are looking for a break and want a change of your SAP job, or you are a fresher looking out for SAP roles. So what do you do? First thing, go into various job sites. Say for example, there are many other sites. Type FICO on search term. You get around 50 to 60 jobs pertaining to your module. Out of that, you pick 10 or 15 which you feel are relevant, and then you send your resume to each of them. This is what 95% of the consultants do. And I hate to say that this is one of the main reasons why we don't land up with an interview call. So we will select the we will select 10 or 15 jobs, and for each and every job we will be sending the same resume. That doesn't work. We have to find the requirements of the job. We have to modify our resume according to that requirements. Then only we need to send our resume to that particular job. Now this is what I did, and many other consultants who got lucrative jobs did, and it works. After I have zeroed in on the 15 to 20 jobs, I looked for those jobs where there is less competition. If you are unable to do that, don't worry, but if can, that is wonderful. For example, very few consultants know material ledger product costing. Instead of sending the same resume to all the recruiters, I read each of their specific job requirements and ensure that my first two pages reflected that requirements in totality. So say a client is looking for asset accounting and you do have it in your resume but it is not so apparent. Now the client is seeking desperately for an asset accounting guy. So make sure it knows it known to the client that you are a specialist in asset accounting. Spend 10 minutes changing your resume to reflect the same by highlighting various points which will make your resume stand out. So I had a version 0 which was my main resume, and then every day I would send 10 resumes which would alter based on the needs of the client and send it to them. So in a day I would spend around an hour doing so, but within a week or in some case a month I would get the job of my choice. Guaranteed it works. So, what are the hot tips? Never ever send your same resume to 100 clients. It just does not work. Pick and choose and modify your resume to fit into their needs. It is quite simple, you see. All you need to remember is the story of the number 10 shoe. You, as a job hunter, have to offer your client the perfect resume they are looking for. You must make haste and send the same resumes to 100 recruiters or clients. It just does not work. Imagine if 100 people come to the store and the shopkeeper had only number 10 to offer, what would have happened? He would have lost 90% of his clients. But if he had all different sizes of the shoes to cater to the new needs of the various customers, he would have generated excellent sales. Same holds true in your case too. Package your CV differently every time you send it out. Tweak in one or two sentences, modify few lines, highlight some of them. You will be surprised to see the difference. I bet on you, we do not do the basics right and hence we do not get the results. Starting today, change your approach. To summarize, follow the do's and don'ts. Spend an hour every day and send your resume to only 8 to 10 consultants by knowing what their exact requirements are and ensuring that your CV reflects that in totality. Resume writing is never a one time process. You can have a version 0, but you need to alter that version every time you send to the client. If you do that, you will definitely get an interview call. My ratio is 100% of getting interview calls even when I did not have any experience in SAP. Remember, the objective of writing resumes is to get an interview call. At this stage, you do not have to worry how you clear the interview. Be creative, bold, and daring in your resume. It should reflect your personality. So give it your best shot. Don't make it just for the sake of making so. That way, you will end up getting ordinary projects. Jumpstart your SAP career by throwing in your personality in your resume. Be creative, and you will see that very soon you will land up with lucrative roles. Nowadays, a latest trend is to make the CVs in PDFs as it looks very presentable. You can easily make PDF documents of your Word files. So go to this website and remember your objective is to get an interview call first. You can land up with a top paying assignment only after you get an interview call. So take care and goodbye, and I will try to make video on how we can have a template version 0 of the template resume, so we can modify our resume according to the client requirements. So let me try to do in our next video, creating the uh, basic template, which might be helpful for to our viewers. So let me try and hope for the best. Thank you so much. Thank you for watching this video.